Hello guys, I'm Fizzy and welcome to my personal highlights from the F1 Esports Series League Championship on the PC platform. It's been a little while actually since I commentated on my own F1 races on here, so I'm going to compensate for that today by commentating on 3 races in the same video. All of the 3 races from the PC League Championship, which obviously, as I mentioned, is part of the F1 Esports Series, part of the qualification process to decide who will go to the esports semi-final in London on the 10th of October. So AOR was part of hosting the League Championship that would send 3 semi-finalists from each platform, meaning in the case of the PC League Championship here, top 3 in the standings at the end of the 3 races will go to London to compete alongside the other League Championship qualifiers from the other platforms and also the 30 drivers that will qualify through the events inside of the F1 2017 game. So I was one of the drivers on this 20-man grid on the PC side, driving in the Force India. As you can see, obviously equal car for performance, so it's only the colour that's important with this Force India, obviously. And I have to say, it's a very, very strong grid. My league teammate Wycombs is part of it as well, alongside a lot of other league racers from AOR, and actually also some very fast sim racers who are more used to other games, such as Graham Carroll and Olli Pakala from Team Redline. Those guys are taking part here as well. So it's a very strong field of drivers, and here in China for the first out of the 3 races. I'm currently on my qualifying lap to try to basically give myself as good a starting position as possible. That's usually what you do in qualifying. And it hasn't been, the perfect lap, but it's going to put me, somewhere on the grid. 132.8, which in the end was 7/10 of a second off the pole time set by Graham Carroll, with the Chempuluk Basi close behind him. You got Oslo in P4, that is Olli Pakala. I'm not sure why he named himself after Norway's capital. And you had Wycombs there in P6, and I'm going to start this race from P14, and there's no formation lap in this race, so we're going to jump straight into it with the red lights, and here we go for the first out of the 3 races in Shanghai, starting behind a lot of cars, and as usual on this game, I am not getting a particularly great launch. Oh my god, and that's not going to help at all. I've just had a screen freeze, which through no fault of my own has just sent me down from P14 to P19, which is obviously very helpful when you're trying to make up positions at the start of the race. So at the moment we are trailing the whole pack here. Slightly scary moments as well, with the cars sort of jittering back and forth a bit as well. A little bit of lag going on in this lobby, so we're gonna be a little bit cautious there, not to make any too rash moves. Try to not to get too close to someone, just in case they sort of lag backwards into my front wing. That's the last thing we want, front wing damage at this early stages of the race. Well, you don't really want it at the late stages of the race either, but you know what I mean. So Westy ahead is actually going to go for a move on Marco. That's a bit close between the 2 of those guys. I'm going to line myself up with a much better exit to get alongside Westy coming down towards the final sector. Again, a little bit of jittering from the car ahead, but I'm going to lift off and ease my way through the braking zone and ahead of Westy up to P18. It's going to have to be a bit of a comeback drive to get anywhere near the points in this race, to be honest, after our relatively average qualifying and then that screen freeze at the start. Let's see if we can make a move on Marco now, going down the long straight. Obviously no slipstream advantage for us, considering everyone else in this train also has a slipstream at the moment, and for some reason I don't even want to be behind Marco, just being wary of the lag there. Getting pretty close to him though, through the hairpin, but that's not going to give me a good exit at all, so we're going to have to chill out behind him for a little bit longer. Chem with the fastest lap, he's taking the lead of the race, and RBK, who started from P3, has retired from the session. You could see his car there in the gravel. That is not the way he would have wanted to start this league championship. Important, of course, to point out that I am on the soft compound tires, just like Marco had, and unlike Westy, who's on the more sort of faster super softs. And now going down the main straight on the start of lap 4, side by side with Marco on the outside of turn 1. Oh, but we've been squeezed a little bit there. I turned out of it because Marco got a little bit too close to comfort. I assume he didn't mean to get that close to me, but in any case, I had to sort of back out of that because of that. So we're going to have to be a little bit more patient with the Mercedes, or maybe not, because he's just had a bad moment there on the exit on the curb. Half a spin and up to P15 we go, so we regain 3 of the places that we lost at the start. And we're going to jump forward to lap 7 now, with Failer and Nick Meadow ahead battling away. We have also gained another couple of positions from cars pitting, I think, quite early. And it's a bit of a roadblock going on here. Can't really do anything about this. Nick Media and Failure just constantly side by side there at the start of this lap. So I'm gonna just have to sit back and hope that one of them gets a bad exit out of the corner somewhere. Gonna try to upbrake Failure even, but they're not gonna work to go around the outside there. And fair play to Nick Media, made that move work. Pretty good effort from him. Both of those guys as well, also on the soft tires, just like me, as Failure's going a little bit slowly here through the fast corners actually. So I'm going to try to be a bit cheeky and overtake him on a place where you don't usually see any overtaking moves happening. But it was just a little bit too tricky there to make it work, so we're going to try to wait for the straight instead. Maybe in the braking zone here we could make it up the inside, trying to outbrake, tiny bit of a lock-up, meant we went deep. Luckily Failure so it come in and backed out of it, instead of trying to hold it around the outside. So that is the move done for P12 at the moment. And as we skip onto the end of lap 9 as well, we're getting close to Nick Media, but he peels off into the pit lane, which is pretty early actually when you're starting the race on the soft tires. That must mean that Nick Media is definitely going for a two-stop strategy here, which based on the practice I had done for this race definitely was not the way to go. So I'm going to try to stretch this soft stint as long as possible so that I can go onto the super soft tire even at the end of the race, because that is what worked pretty well for me in practice. But now because of this strategy, of course, that means we're going to go up to P2 at the moment with more cars in the pit lane. Car behind is Chembolik Basi. He was the first man to pit at the end of lap 5, I think, but he did pit in from the lead of the race. So essentially at the moment, out of the guys who have pitted once, he is the net leader of the race. So I'm not going to fight him too hard as he stuck his nose there up the inside of turn 1. But surely with Chem having pitted in lap 5, he also will need to make another stop in this race. Same possibly goes for Oslo, who is now coming off the inside of turn 6. He pitted on lap 7, I think. So, and also he is on the super softs actually. So yeah, he definitely has to pit again. But as you can see, he's going pretty fast at this stage of the race. So I'm not going to be able to fight him either. Graham Carroll, next car behind, he's on the soft tires, and he pitted on lap 8. So I'm not really sure what he will do on strategy. It is going to be tricky for him to go 20 laps on the soft tires, but either way, at this stage of the race, he's going to be way quicker than me, not only because he's quicker by default, but also because his tires are fresher. But at the moment, I managed to cover him off in this braking zone at the least, and going onto the long back straight. Let's see if we have any chance of defending from Graham here. Obviously, he's not really my battle, but as we go down the straight, he's not really closing actually. I've got DRS of course as well from Oslo ahead, which does help, and seemingly a bit more straight line speed actually than Graham there. So I'm going to stay ahead of the Mercedes for now in P3. And as we skip onto the start of the next lap as well, Graham's trying to find a way through, and as I'm just understeering further and further towards the left side of turn 1, Graham eventually managed to slip through there, but I managed to actually hold him up for longer than I would have thought, really, when he caught up to me there. But in any case, we'll be interested to see how the races pan out for those guys as well. As we now are coming towards the end of the stint, Failure has caught us back up again after hovering around a couple of seconds behind for a while, and he's actually not going to follow me into the pit lane, so he's going to stretch the stint even longer. And thank God there was no gravel there on the pit entry like there used to be, because I would have been majorly in trouble if there was. But yeah, we're going to go for a set of the super soft tires for the final 12 laps of this race. And of course, even though we pitted from P3, the field is so close in this race, so we're going to drop all the way down from P4 to P15 as a result of that pit stop. Luckily, just ahead of a couple of cars there, and then we gained the position on Failure as well as he pitted. Later on, we're going to get another position as a Johnny John pitted at the end of lap 19. But I think from here on out, we're not going to get any more positions from people pitting, so we're going to try to make them on the track, and we're going to do one right now, hopefully, with the Nick Mead on the outside into turn 1. He's on the medium tires at the moment, so I should have a pretty clear advantage. And there we go, jump down, pretty straightforward move to move up to P12 in the race. You can see there's a bit of a train of cars up there, and that is what I need to get into if I want any points from this race. But as my stint went on, the performance of these super softs were dropping off just ever so slightly, and actually, never mind, we're gonna be suddenly in P11 because Kalon has had also screen free seemingly. He has just suddenly appeared behind us instead of ahead of us where he was. So obviously a big shame for Kalon there. But yeah, I wasn't able really to make inroads as quickly as possible on this train. So we're already onto the final lap of this race. So my tires are pretty worn at this point, and it's only now that we're catching up to the sort of back of this train at the lower part of the points, catching up to Riker Gordon, aka RS Falcon, You might remember him from the Xbox League in Season 13. He has suddenly turned into a ghost car. I think he's run out of fuel, so I'm getting very distracted here. And actually, Kalon has put his car up the inside of me there as I try to just navigate the ghost car off of Raiko, which I didn't know whether I needed to avoid or not, but it turns out I didn't, and now going up the inside of another very slow car, and that has gone completely wrong at the final corner of the race. Chembuluk Basi there in the Haas going incredibly slow. They must also have run out of fuel, but unlike Raiko's car, his car did not ghost, and I've touched the side of it and been sent into a spin, which has ended this race in a very unfortunate manner, but for someone, the race ended in the quite opposite manner. Wycombs actually won this race after a stunning comeback, passing Graham Carroll for the win on the final lap of the race. And I was talking to Wycombs on voice chat during this race, and it was pretty scenes. He was very, very happy, and understandably so. And even though my race had ended horrifically wrong, Wycombs having a good race sort of overshadowed that. I didn't really care too much about my race at that point. I was just very, very happy for Wycombs leading the PC League Championship in the Esports series after the first round. And as we now head on to Bahrain, I'm not going to bother showing my qualifying lap because it was pretty average once again. And although I had the chance to improve on it at the end of the session, I actually decided not to try to do that because P11 is actually a pretty decent starting position when you're someone of not the ultimate pace, such as me. But this of course means that we are the first man on the grid to start on fresh tires for round 2 of the League Championship. Kalwutski has had a storming start though, and as usual I'm starting like an absolute moron. So we are getting mugged a little bit left, right and centre into the first corner at Bahrain. Cars absolutely everywhere at the moment. RBK went right outside of several cars there. Kalwutski is still ahead. Taylor is the car behind now. But of course for me, starting on the medium tires, it's all about trying to keep it consistent now, trying to stay out of trouble, trying to be as high up as possible when all of these super soft and soft runners ahead will start to pit. Well, actually I don't think there's any soft runners ahead, I think they're all super soft runners even. So actually if we can keep up with any other cars ahead in these first few laps, it would be quite impressive. At this stage of course it is quite a train, and someone's trying to sneak around me outside. That is Tom97HD, who is back in AOR for the occasion of this Esports Championship, and he's going to go very much up the inside of both me and Johnny John even through turn 10, and he's made that one stick, but he is on the soft tires, so I'm not going to be too worried about him at the moment. And he's now challenging Johnny John as well through the first corner on lap 2, and there he goes. Okay, see you Tom. He's just decided to spin off the track and into the wall. So that was the first part of the race, and we skip on to lap 8 now. Currently in P10 as a couple of cars have pitted or disconnected or something like that. Either way, we got another soft runner up the inside into turn 10. Unlike Tom, Max kind of caught me off guard there. Didn't really expect him to dive up the inside of turn 10, which is why I kind of turned in as normal and there was a little bit of wheel banging. But either way, he then pitted a few laps later, and at the start of lap 12, the final super soft runner went into the pits as well, meaning I, as the lead medium runner in the race, am actually going to take the lead of this Bahrain Grand Prix. We are no longer at China. So that's always pretty cool, you know. I know that the only reason I'm leading is because everyone else pitted, but it's always fun to have your name next to the P1. Although Kalon in the Renault just behind is probably looking to take that away though, as he is very, very close behind and very much putting the pressure on, and no change on lap 17. He is still right there behind me, but it was just a case that he was always very close, but he just couldn't get past, even though he kept getting very, very close in certain braking zones and on certain straights. But I was driving this in very well, I thought, actually, just keeping the consistency up, not really making any mistakes at all, which is why at the end of lap 18 I was still in the lead of the race, as it was time to get rid of these medium tires, let Graham Carroll take the lead of the race as the proper leader. And now the fun begins, because we're gonna switch on to the super soft tires for the final 11 laps of this race. Some of you might have seen these 11 laps already, because I uploaded them uncommentated on my channel already on the day after this race actually happened. But let's see in what position we will emerge as we re-enter the track here. Are we going to still be inside the points? No, just about not. There we go, P10 for Max, and we're going to rejoin in P11. So bit better conditions for us to push on the final stint compared to the China race. We are closer to the points for sure now, so it's just going to be a case for us to try to gain as many positions as at all possible here on this final stint to gain as many points as we can. And our first target is that Sauber of Max AFC, who passed me earlier in the race. Let's go for some revenge here up the inside of turn 8. He dive bombed me earlier in the race. I'm going to dive bomb him back, and there we go. Job done. Up into the points in this race. We're not really happy with this. You can see Michael and Johnny John very close ahead as well. So definitely want to get those positions at least as well before the end of this race. Because, you know, even though I scored 0 points in China and my pace is as such compared to the absolute top guys in this thing, that I don't really have a realistic chance of getting top 3 in the standings and going to London, let's be honest here. But it's always nice to sort of make yourself as little pointless as possible by scoring as many points as possible for the standings to make yourself look a little bit better. So that is what I'm going to try to do here. And mainly, you know, just have some fun. I got a chance now to really push on these tires. Fighting people who are on the mediums, have been out on those tires for quite a while. So let's just see what we can do. What we can do actually is the fastest lap of the race. Despite being in some traffic and making an overtake on that lap as well. We're gonna try to make another one on Michael immediately on turn 1 on lap 21. He's seen it coming well though and held it around the outside of the corner, but I've managed to get a really good traction out of there as well. So we're going to look to the inside once again into turn 4 this time, braking in a little bit later, but it is one of those corners where you can hold it around the outside. It's quite open on the exit, so we're still going to have to do it the hard way here, side by side through the turn 5 and 6 fast chicane. Michael's tried to hang it around the outside, but I just got more grip at this stage, managed to just about keep it on track as well. Even though we missed that apex, that is the move done for P9 in the race. Kalon as well, still behind on the same stretch. He's trying to follow us through, and actually Wycombs is not too far behind either. He has had a bit of a poor race, a very poor race actually compared to China, as he had an incident in the first 5 laps. So the mood in the voice chat a little bit sort of more tempered than it was in China, I guess. But in any case, for me, the charge goes on as we're now right at the back of Johnny John, heading out of the penultimate corner on lap 22. Not really a great place to pass though, because if we pass him here, we might lose the DRS on the next straight. So I'm going to be patient for now and try to line up a good exit out of the final corner. And Johnny John running slightly under the curve there as well, which is going to help. And we might even be alongside. We are alongside even before opening up the DRS, and good amount of speed down towards the first corner, covering the inside still, just in case he felt a bit feisty and wanted to dive it back up the inside. So that is another overtake done, P8, and with Cam in the Williams just ahead as well, onto lap 23, close behind Cam. Maybe not quite close enough to dive it up the inside here like we did on Max earlier. Can we get a good enough exit here to challenge him already into turn 10? Not quite. So maybe the back DRS straight could be the way to go. Usually really struggling to get the good exit out of turn 10 though. But let's see. Yeah, managing to control the lack of oversteer there really well actually, and getting very close with the DRS now on Cam as well. Can we make it? P7 immediately. Try to not go too deep, slight lock up on the inside, and Cam will try to fight back on the left side going up the hill, but that is not going to work. So we are up to P7, and with the gap to Chem ahead, just over 2 seconds as well, with quite a few laps still to go in the race actually. So let's see if we can close that down, and yes we can indeed, on to lap 26. It did take us quite a few laps actually, and got Ram in the other Force India just ahead of Chem as well. So let's see if we can do something about the Haas driver first of all. Just over 3 laps remaining in the race, so we've got to try to be relatively efficient if we want to get further up as well. Now coming through the penultimate corner, we gotten too close to the back of him. Rev went loose as we touched him with the front wing. Luckily no damage, but that has cost us quite a bit of time, so we're going to have to wait a whole other lap to get back close to Chem there. And Kalon as well has caught right up to the back of us now, after we had him just out of DRS range I think for a while. So that is not really going to help, kind of frustrating in a way. Even though it was a tiny touch, it really wanted to send it back and flying, so lost a lot of time, and again wasn't close enough on this occasion into turn 1 there, as Chem also had DRS and slipstream from Ram ahead. So on the penultimate lap now, going through the fast chicane, and Chem is struggling so much, might have front wing damage potentially, and a bit of distraction there with the ghost car. I was sort of thinking about doing a lunge up the inside there, but Chem kind of moved to the middle of the track anyway to avoid that ghost car. So even if I wanted to do it, there wouldn't have been any space. Now through turn 10, a bit of lock-up, but still a decent line. Chem going immediately defensive. Is clearly wary of me being on better tires at the moment, even though at this stage the super softs even are quite one, as you can see there, 53% on the rear left. And once again we're going to be very close to Chem going through these fast corners. You can see how much better turning I have as I'm moving to the inside, backing out of it. So as Chem cuts back across, but he's going to run slightly wide. I'm going to take him here on the exit. Going to move to the inside, go into the final corner. Preferably here, I want to be behind going across the DRS detection line, but I think I was just ahead actually, so it could be a struggle to keep this position coming down the main straight. But for now, we are up to P6. Kalen as well getting a run on Chem behind, so they're going to be side by side. I'm going to move to the right hand side just to make sure to cover off that inside. You can see both of them closing, coming down the straight, breaking now down into turn 1 in the middle of the circuit. Chem braking a lot later because they're going to try to go around the outside. I'm going to have to leave him space there, but I got the outside for turn 2, and there we go. I think I've got him covered for the time being, although he's still very, very close behind. And to run to the next corner, looking to the inside even, so I'm going to keep defending, get it slowed down, turn in pretty much on the apex. And can we get the good enough exit to keep the position? Yes, just about up to P6 after a pretty intense battle with Chem, with Kalon lurking just behind as well. Of course, this has lost us a bit of time to ram ahead, who is now challenging Raiko actually for P4. Half a lap to go, so I don't think I'm quite going to be able to play close enough to those guys, although they are going side by side pretty much into the final corner. So I can see P5 and P4 right there ahead of me. A bit of an oversteer as well. It would have been quite embarrassing if I'd lost the car there, but P6 in the end after a pretty very entertaining final stint. I really enjoyed driving that one. If it wasn't for that tiny tap on the back of Chem on well, lap 26 I guess, maybe I could have got past him quicker and challenged the two guys ahead as well. That would have made it a pretty much perfect race, considering where I started. But still, 5 places up from my starting position and 8 points on the board, meaning that I at least have scored some points in my F1 Esports career, which is always good. So, on to Suzuka for the final race in the League Championship. And this time the qualifying for me was the story of an absolute bottle job, because I was looking very good on my final lap, completely missed a turning for Spoon and got an invalidated lap time on my final attempt, where I easily could have improved by at least 0.4 of a second. You can see I'm quite annoyed with that. And that was indeed very costly, qualifying in P12 with a horrendous lap really, compared to what I know I could do, and considering everyone else pretty much bottled it as well, it should have been a very easy P5 on the grid for me. And to make matters even better, it's going to be raining for the whole race, which is obviously fantastic, so let's see what we can do. Goal really is to beat Kayla and Michael, who are equal with me on points going into this, just so I can stay, hopefully in the top 10 at least, the top half of the standings at the end. And of course I'm still very much just hoping for Wycombs to have a good race as well, so that he can qualify for London. He's currently P3 going into this race in the standings, so if he just puts in a normal solid performance, he will be going through the semi, which obviously would be pretty sick. But anyway, it is time for the race now at the wet Suzuka, and my starts are amazing as per usual. Michael in the Ferrari already going past into turn 1, taking it a little bit easy, a lot of spray, so it's hard to see McLaren off the track there. Luckily not Wycombs, that was failure I think, as we're now back ahead of Michael coming out of turn 2, but there's a bit contact. Ah! Why has there been contact there? Come on now. I don't even know what happened, to be honest. I just got completely surprised by that touch on the rear. From my perspective, I was literally just driving along in a straight line on the exit, and suddenly I am spinning around way onto the grass and nothing I could do about it. So yeah, that has obviously made my race very much easier. Took me until lap 5 to catch up back up to the pack. Marcus had a bit of a problem there on the outside of turn 2. And to be honest, my pace wasn't really that bad, because I was really expecting to not see any cars the whole race almost after that start. But within 5-6 laps, I was actually catching up to cars. Klawutski now having problems on the exit of Spoon, so I'm going to grab that position as well. Up to P12 at the moment, with a few other cars having had problems also. So obviously in the position I'm in now, with losing like 15 seconds to everyone on the first lap. Oh my god, okay, make that 18 seconds with a 3-second penalty. Whoopsie daisy. Michael, hello. I think he was to go touch me on the start. I'm gonna make a beautiful overtake through him, coming down through 130R, so that's pretty good. He obviously has disconnected from the session, which is not good for him. So we are actually on lap 12 into the points at the moment. Klawutski chilling out in the wall a lap down. That's interesting. yeah, Kalon in 10th though has pitted already, as we are catching up to the back of Johnny John and Westy, who were really battling and slowing each other down a bit. As you can see here, Westy diving up the inside, forcing Johnny John to leave room through the chicane. I'm forced to basically brake on the exit, so I'm gonna try to be cheeky here, go for an early pit stop. Obviously, usually when there's a full wet race, you kind of tend to pit, okay. 5-second stop-go penalty, that's going to be very helpful. Ooh, luckily, they are not going to be applying that in the pit lane, at least. So I'm not going to lose any time at the moment, as Kalon's going to fly past me on the outside of the pit wall. But I was really annoyed actually by that penalty, because I actually had engaged the pit limiter before I went to the pit lane, but still somehow the car managed to go up to 81 kilometers an hour, even though the pit limiter was engaged. I think that's a bit of a bug, because it's not meant to do that. I think it was the sort of wheel spin on the entry that did it. But anyway, let's see where we are then. Oh, Johnny John and Westy coming out of the pits just as I come down towards the first corner. And we have, unless we run too wide on the turn 2, we have actually managed to have a good enough outlap here to jump Johnny John and Westy. And after that as well, I was pulling away from Westy. Johnny John, though, was keeping up with the back of me, as I caught up to the back of Kalon, who was really struggling in this latter part of the race for some reason. Probably had some front wing damage, I would have thought, because he was going definitely slower than normal. So yeah, despite the start of the race I had, I'm now all of a sudden in a position where I can challenge for P7 in this Japanese Grand Prix. And of course, for the championship position, it is crucial to get past Kalon, because as you saw at the start of the race, both of us are currently at 8 points. So basically, whoever finishes ahead of the other in this race will finish also ahead in the standings. And I'm trying to get past him there. Kalon, though, adamant to move over to the left side, coming towards 130R. In the dry, it is definitely possible to go side by side through here. In the wet, it's going to be way more tricky, so I'm going to back out of that one. Try to find a way through somewhere else on track here as well, potentially with a good exit out of the chicane here. Let's see how close we can get coming out of this corner. Obviously very tricky acceleration zone, bit of oversteer there as well, lots of oversteer in fact, which is not going to help at all. Instead, that's going to give Johnny John in the other run-up a run behind, so I might have to go defensive now into turn 1, but it looks like it's not quite going to be close enough, so I'm going to stay on the racing line, as Kalon as well, missing the apex slightly, coming out of it, but he is has got me covered at the moment. So really got to try to be patient here, while also being very much wary of the threats behind, obviously, in a Renault sandwich at the moment, getting very close to the back of Kalon in the braking for the hairpin. Playing chicken there a little bit with the front wing, and again, we just can't nail these slow speed exits, man. It's just can't control the traction really, and Johnny John again has been given a chance here to take the inside line, and I'm gonna just cheekily slip underneath him as he runs wide as spoon. Kind of saw that coming a little bit, even though, well, he obviously could have nailed the braking zone there and parked it on the apex, but when you are on the inside for a spoon in these conditions especially, it can be tricky. So yeah, slipping back underneath, still in P8, but still not past Kalon. Getting some time through 130 though, which is a sign that Kalon probably has some wing damage. And let's see this time if we can finally get a decent exit out of here. Not really close at the moment, but controlling the oversteer better than last time. And Kalon actually getting a bit of a slide on there on a late part of the acceleration zone, which is actually going to give me a run. Kalon moving to the inside line. I'm seeing the opportunity. I'm going to try to just brake really late, hold it around the outside through the first 2 corners, and actually we have made that move stick for P7 on the outside, which felt pretty damn good, I must say. Even if Kalon had front wing damage, it's still a pretty awesome place to pull off an outside move. So pretty pleased with that one. Just going to keep it nice and steady now through the S's, up a Dunlop, making sure not to understeer onto the curb too much, just a little bit. And there we go. Job done on lap 22, as we have got another penalty. Oh god, I forgot about all these time penalties. So let's see, 3 plus 5 plus 3 makes 11, which means I need to pull an 11-second gap on the cars behind if they don't have any penalties. And to my surprise, my pace was really good in the final 5 laps. I suddenly have an 8.7 second gap over Johnny John as we come towards the finish line. Just have to hope that Johnny John has at least 3 seconds of a penalty as well, so that I can keep P7 in this race, and it does look like he did indeed. And actually, the game didn't even count my sub-go penalty from the speeding in the pits. But anyway, it didn't really matter. So it's going to be a P7. Pretty decent comeback, I would say, considering what happened at the start of the race. And Wycombs did finish the race in P3, which means that he is going to head to the semi-final in London. P3 in the standings for him. Oslo and Graham from Team Redline getting the other 2 spots in the semi from the PC League Championship, hosted by AOR. It's going to be P8 in the standings for me, which means along with 17 other drivers, I will not be heading to the semi. But good news is that I have actually been invited along to the semi-final anyway. Both me and Dan Hawkins, as a thanks from Codemasters, I guess, for hosting this league championship. We're going to be getting some kind of role in the Gfinity setup there, I think. Not sure how big of a role, probably a pretty tiny one, but either way, I am actually going to be in London, which means I'm going to be meeting Wycombs again, and also all the other AOR drivers who will be going there to compete. Especially from the Xbox side, there are a lot of AOR drivers going to be contesting that semi-final. So that is going to be an awesome thing to be a part of. The first ever proper esports event on the Codemasters F1 games. And of course, it's been a pretty cool league championship as well. It's been so 3 pretty interesting races for me. Definitely could have gone better, also could have gone worse, of course. But I'll now be focusing my attention to the London event, where I'll be cheering on Wycombs and all the other AOR drivers who will be taking part. If anyone watching this video as well will be going to London, then, you know, feel free to say hi if you see me. So yeah, looking forward to that. Thanks everyone for watching this 3 race highlights from my esports races so far. Well, I say so far, it's not going to be any more from me this year anyway. Hopefully next year I can try my luck again. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to end the video now. Hope you all enjoyed watching it, and catch you in London or for whatever F1 video I do next. Goodbye!